Not giving the diary? So we got both out of this one. Let's go to this one, I think.
Chapter Graham.
It's indeed not giving the diary at the end. I think it's also the only choice we had here, right?
Graham handed Kenneth Esme's diary. You know about the monster anyway. Kenneth ran out of the attic. He wanted to tell Esme he believed her. He approached Esme's bed and saw her asleep. Kenneth sat on the floor, leaning on her bed. Kenneth fell asleep. When he awoke, the bed was empty. Voices were coming through the door. Kenneth went to the door and peeked outside.
So we're not being woken up by the father this time.
There was his mother and a lot of people in uniform. Some water? No, thanks. Continue. Well, Esme's drowning was staged.
Holy butts.
Well, earlier you said she'd fallen and had swallowed water. Well, she really had water in her lungs. Esme overdosed on neuroleptics with sedative effect.
So where's the father is at?
After that, we assume the suspect, Graham Murphy, thought he killed her and decided to stage an accident. Why would he? Kenneth, unable to bear what he heard, ran down into his mother's arms. What are they talking about? Esme's alive. Haven't you seen her yesterday? Where did you hide her? Mom knelt and hugged Kenneth. The policeman did not intervene. There was sympathy in his eyes.
We're on the last ending.
Why did you come? Go away. Esme's alive. They tell the truth. Esme's gone. She was found yesterday, early in the morning. When you found out, you ran away from home. And later, you returned, as if nothing had happened. Well, excuse me, we need to know where your husband is. I told you, I didn't know. I haven't seen him today. On the way here, we checked. Your car is clearly broken, and the boat is in place. Well, I saw him in the attic yesterday.
Oh, no.
All the policemen standing in the room were alerted by his words. Well, quick, check the rooms and the attic. Kenneth ran with the police, trying to get to the attic first.
Bad idea, buddy.
They opened the door and saw a massive silhouette of his father. The body was hanging on a short rope, making his father look even more intimidating and tall. The police tried to keep Kenneth outside, but he threw himself at his father's feet, where a laconic note was lying. I was spoiled. I became like them. Even worse. Sorry. The policeman took Kenneth in his arms, covering his eyes, carried him out of the attic, and handed him to his mother. She pinned Kenneth to her belly and looked at the events in the attic with glassy eye.
Going from what might have been the best ending to what's probably the most depressing one. All by one small decision on whether or not to give the diary. Damn, dude. That's dark. Well, two bands left. Think there's gonna be a better ending? What endings do we still have left? There's one where we didn't believe about the monsters. Let's see. So don't believe about the monsters. What difference do we make here? Oh, the fox, right? We told him the fox was still alive. That the fox wasn't alive. But I don't know what choices there were still left here.
Chapter, Brenda.
This is the one where the mom goes all like...
Kenneth went downstairs to his mother, who was cleaning up the house after the predator's visit.
I don't know how many choices he made here, though. It's possible that this one doesn't actually have an ending, but...
Your father is a monster. Don't leave the house.
Oh, crud. I forgot that this was the good end, the quote-unquote good ending. Mom got knocked out, but Dad lives. Oh my god, is Mom gonna kill Dad?
She checked if the gun had ammunition and went out of the house toward the pier. Kenneth rushed to the door. He saw his angry father coming to meet his mother. There was a roar of briskly approaching cars and slamming doors nearby. Now put the gun down.
Probably a good idea if the cops are there, yeah.
Father was coming closer. Stay back. Stop. I'll explain.
Please do.
The police ran in and saw the skirmish. Drop your weapons. Father made a few more steps towards Mother.
Bang.
Thunder rumbled. Rifle first, then service weapons. Father and Mother fell backwards.
Both dead.
Kenneth rushed to his mother.
Well, we found the worst ending. Again, I'm not 100% sure that the dad died on this one. Granted, She did take a shot. We just don't know at who. I'd be surprised if he actually fired at officers, but I don't know. What will be the worst? Kind of being left with his dad, or becoming an orphan. Well, they're still Carrie, but. And then there was one ending left, in which we believed that the monsters were real. Is the one where the dad got chopped up? Yeah, it was, wasn't it? I'm not sure what choices we had there, but the game will tell us. And for the record, no, I cannot skip this. So the last ending is in here, right?
Chapter Esme. Don't scare him off. He's just afraid of monsters. Esme, enough. Baloo is dead. Esme had tears in her eyes. It's not fair. You can't say that. The ravens screamed in the sky, scattering in different directions. The sun was coming up. How can you be sure? A grave is all you need to believe in death.
Well, that and a corpse. That helps.
They don't bury the living and don't place crosses over them. The raven's screams were replaced by the singing of a couple of mourning birds. Kenneth finally jumped off the well. You didn't see his body. You said it. You also said that Baloo had probably run away.
Nope, cancer.
I saw. At first, I didn't want to believe, and then to upset you. What else did you see? What do you mean? What did you see at the pier? Kenneth's eyes were moist. Oh, why do you... What did you see? Kenneth cried, giving snatches of conversation between sobs. A monster, or something else. It looked like a dog or a wolf. Esme approached Kenneth and gave him a big hug. I'm sorry. I had to prevent it. Well, it's not your fault at all. I didn't teach you how to swim.
Oh.
Don't blame yourself. Esme waited for Kenneth to calm down. What did you see? I saw you. You were in the water. And not breathing. Just like Baloo. Uh-huh, just like Baloo. They heard a noise from the pier. "Is it him again? Let's go stone him." Kenneth wiped away his tears. "Don't. It's time to go home. Mom's probably worried sick." In despair, Kenneth reached out to Esme. "Let's go." "It was the fox, the monster from the shed, which you showered with stones." "But never hit." "I agree." Kenneth and Esme chuckled over this, as far as it was appropriate. Esme smiled. "You need to be more careful, and don't lose my diary." "Well, what do you mean?" "Close your eyes." "What for?" "I'll tell you a secret." Kenneth, insanely tired of experienced emotions, did just what Esme had asked. Kenneth closed his eyes and felt Esme hugging him tightly with her small arms and pressing him as hard as she could. Esme whispered, "I love you."
And say it in a creepy voice.
Kenneth was afraid to open his eyes. A smile appeared on his face. "What kind of secret is it? I know that." "It's not a secret. The secret is that I'm your monster." Kenneth quickly opened his eyes, but there was no one in front of him. The singing of birds, the sound of a motorboat from the pier, and the sound of someone banging with the instruments mixed up in his head. Kenneth went to the pier. It was still a little dark. Dad was sitting near the boat, doing something with the engine, starting and stopping it periodically. The blades of the engine were right in front of his face. Bram saw Kenneth standing behind him. Bram turned, and his silhouette transformed from a gnarled locust into something broad-shouldered, powerfully overhanging Kenneth. Kenneth looked around the pier, trying to figure out what was going on. Bram was clearly in a hurry. Kenneth thought he was up to something. "Well, what are you doing here? Why'd you wake up so early?" "I came to the noise of the boat." Kenneth flinched. He noticed Esme's bow in the water near the boat. "Because of your mischief, a fishing net got into the water and wrapped around the blades." Bram nodded in the direction of the net pieces that he had unhooked. The shortness of breath gave out his tiredness. "Well, what about the knife?" Kenneth nodded toward the junk on the floor. "Well, this knife? The net is not a clothesline. There's got to be a pruner somewhere, a red one." Kenneth immediately remembered where he threw it, when this evening he had been throwing all that came to hand into the darkness. "I'll look around." Kenneth pretended to be puzzled by the search while his father tried to free the blades of the motor from the fishing net. but he knew what to do. He found the pruner, hid it in his pocket, and headed for the exit.
How did he know?
Did you find it? You're not going to yell, are you? Speak. I think I dropped it in the water last night. Bram frowned. You'll get it, won't you? I think it's where Esme's bow is floating.
Seriously?
Get out of here. Kenneth backed away. After making sure Dad was distracted, Kenneth ran toward the house. Kenneth ran into the house and walked over to the window in the kitchen. Mother was sitting at the table with huge circles under her eyes. It seemed she didn't sleep at all. What's the matter? How are you feeling? She spoke slowly, and part of her words seemed to be addressed to no one. It was dawn outside. I have something to tell you. Have you seen Esme today? Yes, but she's missing. Missing. She wanted you to have it. Kenneth took his backpack off his shoulders, took out the diary, and handed it to his mother. Kenneth, Esme's not missing. Oh, you should read this. There was a sound of cars briskly approaching the plot and slamming doors. Brenda kept her eyes on Esme's diary. Kenneth looked out of the window and watched his mother. A group of policemen ran to the noise in the shed where Bram was desperately trying to start the boat. There was a fuss. Kenneth looked at his mother, waiting for her reaction. Brenda looked toward the window, at Kenneth, and then she continued to read the diary. The police were heading towards the house. Brenda wiped a tear from her cheek and turned the page of Esme's diary. Mom, stop crying, please. Don't worry, sugar. A group of policemen entered the house. When they saw a mother and son talking, they showed Brenda that they could wait. Today, we'll go to Grandma. She's waiting for us. Really? Really. I'm sure you'll get along with Drag, her new dog. No, no more dogs. You don't have to love it. Well, I don't want anything. Brenda approached Kenneth and gave him a hug. You should sleep. Well, I can't sleep without Esme. Kenneth became hysterical and, bursting into tears, ran to the second floor, where he fell on Esme's cold pillow and buried his face into it. Although Kenneth was sleepy, he tried his best to keep his word. He wouldn't be able to sleep without Esme. Kenneth listened to what was happening. He heard the door closing on the first floor, and, a few minutes later, the sound of cars leaving. Someone went upstairs to the nursery. Kenneth quickly turned his face to the wall in a protest. Mother came into the room. "Can't sleep?" Kenneth snuffled his nose. "Me neither." Brenda walked over to Esme's bed, lay down on it, and gently pressed herself against Kenneth, hugging him. Brenda began humming a familiar tune. Kenneth was already falling asleep when he asked a question. "Do you think Esme won't be coming back?" Holding the lump in her throat, Brenda continued to hum her lullaby. The house of the Murphy family fell asleep.
I'm guessing that's our quote-unquote best ending. Kid knows what's up now. Dad arrested. Mom's fine. The whole swimming thing ties into what happened. The daughter was unconscious and thrown in the water. Presumably by the father. Quite the story. Pieced together by getting all the different endings, which is weird because, well, it tells one story, but you don't get the entire picture until you've done most of the endings.
Снится вещи, снится ночью мне, будто земля моя с бродом распродана и разворочен, разворочен, разворочен.
Well, I guess that's it then. Monsters of Little Haven. Quite the experience, I guess. I don't think there's much more to say, but thank you guys for watching. Hoping you enjoyed the series. Feel free to show us probably coming like or something if you're not ready. I'm seeing you guys on whatever it is that I do next. Bye, everyone.